On a dark winter's day, a little girl sat in a cab with her father. She stared out the window as the cab drove through foggy London. Sara Crewe was only 7, but she seemed much older. She was always dreaming and thinking. At that moment, she was thinking about her long trip from India. She had just arrived in London with her father. It felt strange to travel from a hot sunny place and arrive in a cold dark one. Soon the cab stopped in front of a big brick house. A brass sign on the front door said, "Miss Minchin's boarding school for young ladies." "Papa, is this the place?" Sara whispered. "Yes," he replied. "We have reached it at last." Sara's mother had died when Sara was born. Sara's father was an officer in the British Army. He was very rich and handsome and gave Sara whatever she wanted. Sara had lots of toys and clothes. Servants took care of all her needs. In India, she'd had only one worry. Her father believed that the climate in India wasn't healthy. So one day he would send her to school in England. And now that day had come. Captain Crewe knocked on the door of the school. A servant answered and led them inside. Sara looked around at the ugly sitting room with its heavy wooden furniture. "I don't like it here, Papa," she said. "But soldiers probably don't like going into battle either." Captain Crewe laughed. "Oh, Sara, you say such wonderful things. What will I do without you?" He swept her into his arms for a hug. A moment later, the headmistress, Miss Minchin, entered the room. The headmistress had large fishy eyes and a large fishy smile. Sara thought the woman looked just like her school, tall, dull, ugly. Miss Minchin knew that Captain Crewe was rich. She tried to please him by praising Sara. "What a beautiful child!" the headmistress exclaimed. "But I am not beautiful," Sara thought. "Miss Minchin is making that up." Sara stood quietly near her father while he and the headmistress talked. Because Sara's father was very rich, Sara would have many nice things at school. There would be a pretty bedroom and sitting room and a pony and carriage. A maid would help her. "Sara reads too much," Captain Crewe told the headmistress. "Make sure she goes outside. She should ride her pony or buy some noodles." "Oh, Papa," said Sara, "I don't need a lot of noodles. I only need Emily." "Who's Emily?" asked Miss Minchin. "Tell her, Sara," Captain Crewe said, smiling. "She's a special doll that Papa is going to buy for me," said Sara. "She will be my friend when Papa is in India. I'll talk to her about him." Miss Minchin's large fishy smile grew wider. "What an unusual child," she exclaimed loudly. "She's such a darling girl." "Yes," said Captain Crewe. He pulled Sara close. "She's truly a darling girl. Please take very good care of her for me, Miss Minchin." "Oh, I will," the headmistress promised. Sara stayed with her father at his hotel for several days. He bought her all kinds of expensive clothes, velvet dresses, fur coats, silk stockings. They searched many toy shops looking for Emily but couldn't find her. "She has to be a doll who can listen to me, Papa," explained Sara. "Most dolls don't really seem to hear." So they looked at big dolls and little ones, at dolls with black eyes and dolls with blue ones. They looked at dolls with brown curls and golden braids, dolls in all kinds of clothing. But none of them was quite right. Then one day Sara spotted a doll with golden. Then one day Sara spotted a doll with golden brown hair and an intelligent expression. "Look, Papa, there is Emily," she cried. They went into the shop and bought the doll. Then they went to a dressmaker to order a grand wardrobe for Emily. Finally, the day came when Captain Crew had to leave. He and Sara were very sad. From her window, Sara watched him get into a cab. Emily was by her side. Miss Minchin sent her sister, Miss Amelia, to check on Sara. "Why is this door locked?" asked Miss Amelia. "I want to be alone, please," said Sara softly. Miss Amelia went downstairs and told Miss Minchin about how Sara was acting. "I've never seen such an odd child," said Miss Amelia. "She has locked herself in her room, but she's not making any noise at all." "She's very spoiled," snapped Miss Minchin. "I'm surprised she isn't kicking and screaming. All those new clothes are absolutely ridiculous. Her father treats her like a little princess." A Little Princess. Chapter 2. First day of class. See you tomorrow. Sweet dreams. The next morning, Sara had a long talk with her doll Emily about her father. "Papa is traveling on the sea now," said Sara. Emily said nothing, but Sara was sure the doll was listening. "I believe that dolls have secrets," Sara told her maid, Mariette. "Perhaps Emily can read and walk and talk, but she only does those things when no one is watching her." Mariette smiled at Sara. "It's time for school." "Just a minute, please," Sara replied. She went to Emily and gave her a book. "You can read this while I'm in class," she said to the doll. What an odd child, Mariette thought as she and Sara went downstairs. But Mariette knew she would like her new job as Sara's maid. Sara was very kind and polite and had charming manners. "She's almost like a little princess," thought the maid. By the time Sara entered the classroom, everyone was talking about her. "She has so many fancy clothes," Lavinia Herbert whispered to her best friend Jessie. "I passed her room last night. Her maid was opening a suitcase full of lace petticoats. She's wearing one now. I saw it when she sat down." Lavinia was nearly 13 and thought of herself as almost grown up. "I heard Miss Minchin say it's absolutely ridiculous for a child to have such fancy clothes," she said. "I agree with her. My mother says that children should always dress simply." The two girls pretended to read their geography books, but they were really sneaking looks at Sara. "She's wearing silk stockings," whispered Jessie. "What tiny feet she has." "I don't think she's pretty at all," Lavinia sniffed. "Her eyes are such a strange color." "But there is something about her that makes you keep looking at her," said Jessie. "Her eyelashes are so dark and long, and her eyes are almost green." Meanwhile, Sara sat quietly watching the other girls who were still staring at her. "Young ladies," said Miss Minchin, "I'd like to introduce you to your new classmate, Miss Sara Crew." All the girls stood up, and Sara did too. "I expect you to be nice to Miss Crew. She has just come to London from India. After lessons are over, you will have time to get acquainted with Sara." The girls bowed to Sara, who courtesied in reply. "Come here, Sara," said Miss Minchin as the other girls sat down. Sara obediently went to Miss Minchin's side. "Your father hired a French maid for you," said the headmistress. "He must want you to learn French." Sara felt a little awkward. I think he just thought that I'd like Marriott.